So it seems like it's on the verge of exploding, really. The figure that we saw today, well into the 200s of new cases in Sydney, 158 of those infectious in the community. Are we now beginning to look at the exponential growth that Gladys Berejiklian was saying as recently as last week New South Wales had avoided?
Yeah, if it keeps on going like this, then our number is above 1, and we are in exponential growth. It might be not that fast in terms of exponential growth at the moment, but it looks very much like exponential growth according to the analysts.
Norman, Gladys says that these are the harshest restrictions that she's now put in place that any state has seen. Is that actually correct?
I don't think so. No Victorian would agree with that in terms of curfews, in terms of a citywide lockdown, or even the Northern Beaches last year in terms of their own lockdown. I just don't think that's the case.
Norman, Gladys Berejiklian is rejecting calls to introduce measures like compulsory mask wearing at certain places. Curfews is a big one. She says the data's just not there to support it. But is she overlooking the message these optics can send to the people that perhaps she's not getting through to?
The only thing that works in this is social distancing and human behaviour change. And you've got to use everything you can. And it's a package of measures, and you'll never know which one works. Go right back to January, February of last year. That's what WHO said. Go in hard, go in early. And you're not quite sure what'll work, but if you do it and it works, you can always apologise later.
So given the current settings and what you've just said about how we might be looking at something akin to exponential growth, even if not that fast, how high do you think this goes? I mean, you know, Victoria saw upwards of 700 daily cases. Is New South Wales on a trajectory anything like that?
So it's a different situation in New South Wales because Victoria did not have an effective contact tracing system. New South Wales does. So they've held it in check. And it's true when the Premier says they've saved a lot of cases. It's hard to know how many, but it'll be many thousands of cases because of their contact tracing systems. That's number one. Number two, vaccination is coming in, albeit at a very slow rate. If they can escalate vaccination in parallel, I mean, that's the bet they're taking, I'm sure, which is escalate vaccination very, very quickly. And we hope that the contact tracing holds the fort. But it's precarious. It's on a knife edge and it could slip out of control.
Yes, Norman, are we now at that situation where New South Wales probably can only get on top of this now through vaccinations? And if that's the case, what sort of a rate do you think is needed?
Well, the modelling by Sydney University and the Burnett Institute says they could actually get it under control with a bigger lockdown. It's all about compliance with lockdown measures, and we're a long way off that. Well, not a long way, but we're off that at the moment. So we haven't given that a good shot yet in New South Wales, according to the modellers. And so it's not inevitable that it goes out of control. And if you could really ramp up vaccination to very high rates, low-income countries manage to immunise millions of people in incredibly short periods of time. And it should be possible to ramp up immunisation to very high levels very quickly. And that would make a difference to bending the curve. Even if each vaccine only has a small effect on transmission, overall it would be a big effect.
And the Grattan Institute today has done some modelling, and they say that it could be a thing of the past. Lockdowns could be a thing of the past if we reach 80%. Do you think that sounds about right? And can we do that by Christmas?
I've spoken to modellers in the United Kingdom who've done the same sort of modelling. They reckon it's near 90%, but it's certainly above 80%. We are not going to get there terribly quickly in Australia, maybe March of next year to 80%. We'll be at 50 or 60% by Christmas. But we could escalate that in New South Wales. And we can't get out of this until New South Wales is sorted. So there probably is a case for giving vaccines from other states to New South Wales so they can get this under control.
And I imagine that number, that 80%, would depend on the variant, right? If new variants come along that are even more infectious, then maybe that goes even higher. We just did some maths. To be clear, that 80% is of the total population, not the adult population.
Yes.
The total population.
No, total population.
And we just have looked it up, and it's roughly 16% of our population is under 12, and they can't get the vaccine at all, which gives us about 4% to play with. We would have to have every adult bar about 4% vaccinated, with current vaccine hesitancy running at about 20%. I mean, is this achievable?
So vaccine hesitancy is not running at 20%. The true number of people who just don't want to get vaccinated ever is probably just under 10%. So 90% of Australians will have the vaccine if it's made convenient, they're convinced that it's safe, and they're motivated to do so. So we could get to 90%, and you're absolutely right with those maths. You've got to get to 95% of everybody else, 12 years and above, so before we are allowed to immunise children.
Confident?
No. Best predictor of future performance is past performance, but we can do it. There's no question, but we've got to double the vaccination rates from the current 197,000 a day to up near 300 or 400,000, according to other modelers.
I was going to say thanks, Norman. I will say thanks.
You're living in Victoria, Waleed. What are you going on about?
Oh, yeah, it's just an island paradise down here.
We know this is a game of tennis. It's coming back, Norman.
Yeah, I've still got those swimming shorts for you, Peter.